We are about to completely restructure your relationship with money via a shamanic healing transmission through the perspective lens of the magician archetype. If you want to have a relationship with money that feels very whimsical, magical, full of joy and delight, the magician has an incredible message to share with us. This is a channeled message, if you will. You're going to want to save this video so you can go back and listen again, because every time is going to integrate even on a more expansatory level. And this is the second activation in a series inside of my Magic Money Quest. If you really enjoy this activation and you see these wonderful shifts occurring in your life, I do suggest signing up for the full course, where you can also connect with the mage, the magician, obviously, the wizard, witch, sorceress, enchantress, and the alchemist, to find out what their messages are on our relationships with money as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. We are back at it again. Today we are connecting with the archetype of the magician. And we want to remember, like last time, there's going to be a lot of symbolism, narratives, storytelling. And so it's going to be up to us in this moment right now to interpret these messages. But there is going to be a continuation of unfoldment as you go along your spiritual awakening journey. We also want to ask ourselves, is there anything that is very synchronistic or stuck out to us while we are receiving the magician's messages? And be on the lookout for more synchronicities to show up in your reality. When I went into your energy field, we were on this really big stage outside, kind of like an amphitheater, and we were standing on the stage with one another. However, our backs were facing the audience. And the magician came forward to speak to us, so we're standing there talking to them. They said, I have been waiting for both of you, my beautiful assistants. You know how magicians with magic shows will have people that are supporting them during the show. They said, there are 1,000 people behind you in the audience. How do you feel about that? You looked at the magician and said, I'm nervous, but I'm ready. So that's great. Oh, it's 11:11 on my phone. You were nervous, however, you were feeling the pull of, I can do this. I'm confident. I don't know what we're doing, but I'm going to assume that I can do it. Then we asked the magician, what do you need our support with as their assistants? And the magician handed me a battery-operated lantern, like this one here. And then they handed you a candle with a handle on it here. You know, like, have you seen those pictures of like old, maybe Victorian times, and they're like walking around in the dark? So this is what you received. The magician asked, which one of these do you think is better? And you said the lantern. Magician asked, why do you think that is? He said, because it's more efficient. That's what people want to pay for, efficiency. The magician asked, why do you think somebody would buy a candle instead of a lantern? And these were your responses. I'm going to read from my notes here. The smell. You can get scented candles that smell lovely. It reminds them of childhood memories. The noise from the crackling of the flame, giving ASMR vibes. And it's soothing to see a candle with a flame burning. Kind of like it would be like in a fireplace. It's very soothing to your central nervous system. It feels very homey. The magician asked, okay, what is the candle providing? And you said, the ambiance. They asked, do you get that same experience with a battery-operated lantern? And you said, no. The magician asked, what does the lantern provide? Juxtaposed towards the candle. Like, what specifically does the lantern provide? And you said, it's easy to carry around, it lasts longer, and the light is often a lot brighter. The magician asked, so which one is better? And you said, well, I guess you can't really say if one is better than the other because they have their own benefits. This is when you looked at the magician and said, is this supposed to be an analogy of me comparing myself to others? And they said, yes, good job. When he was handing these items to both of us, the magician said, when you were given the candle You felt like you were given the short end of the stick. Okay, you got the sucky pick. And you were going to look foolish or less than in front of the audience while we were supporting them with the show. When in fact, a candle, or you, that's the representative of the candle, is just what is needed for this magical experience, the show for the audience. You needed to bring the ambiance, because that is what a magical show is all about. It's not necessarily about efficiency. It's about the vibes. The magician said, assume you are who and where you need to be. And you looked at them and said, I believe it. This whole analogy of the lantern and the candle is a representor of you being a little bashful about sharing your gifts, talents, and abilities with the world. The magician said, in some capacities, you have had your back turned away from the magic show you are meant to create here, and the people who have bought tickets to enjoy your experience. These are your soul family, your soul tribe members, the people that are on the same wavelength and on similar journeys and paths. This is you saying, oh, I'm not ready. I don't have what y'all need. And the magician is saying, actually, you have exactly what they need in order to create this really mystical experience in their lives. The magic show where the audience has bought tickets for are representative of your creative projects that you're birthing into life. So I'm going to give a couple different examples of what those might look like. Maybe you're writing a book, creating music, art, a business, workshops, master classes, mentorships, courses, or community projects. Whatever you are wanting to create and bring into reality that revolves around you getting paid for your talents. Because there has been an association with money, we are feeling unworthy. We are not enough. We need to be more of an expert. And the magician is here to come and say, hey, everybody's already here. They're ready. They've already bought tickets to the show. It's time to get over that imposter syndrome and receive all of this abundance and prosperity that people are showing up with. They're already here to give it to you, but you blocking your blessings. And so we need to turn and face them and give them an amazing show. This is when we went into a different section of your energy field, still at the magic show and in front of the audience, but this is focusing on a different area of your wealth mindset. The magician turned to you and said, I need you to start stirring these mashed potatoes. I need you to start stirring these mashed potatoes. And you and I looked at each other like, what? What does that have to do with what we're doing right now? And we all turned towards the audience, you, me, and the magician. There was a really long table on the stage, kind of like the one in the movie Alice in Wonderland where everybody is sitting drinking tea. And there's a really long table. The magician is standing right in the middle, and you're on one end with a bowl of mashed potatoes in front of you, and then I had a different bowl in front of me at the other end of the table. I looked at you and asked how you were feeling, because now we're facing 1,000 people. And you said, I am not nervous at all. No more comparing or asking, am I good enough? I have realized we are uniquely us for a reason, and people love uniqueness. Then the magician looked at me and said, I need you to stir that broccoli salad. That was what was in the bowl. So you had mashed potatoes and I had broccoli salad. The magician said, for my next trick, I am going to have my assistants plate their dishes. And they picked up a plate and walked over to you, and you scooped a pile of mashed potatoes on, and they walked over to me and I scooped a side of broccoli salad. The magician said, now bring me the chair. And there was a chair at the back of the stage. So you walked over and brought it to them, and they sat down and had the plate in front of them. The magician started rummaging around in their pockets and pulled out a fork and a knife and said, ta-da! Then they started eating the mashed potatoes and the broccoli salad. And you and I were just looking at each other like, what is going on? And the audience was also really confused as we just sat here watching them eat. The magician said, what? I told you that this is my greatest trick. I have transformed my assistants into my own private chefs. You and I started laughing, and the audience, and they were clapping. It was just really funny, a silly goose, like very absurd. We were waiting for some monumental trick, and it was that he had tricked us. The magician said to us all, and that is a lesson of why you do not always have to come up with some death-defying act to entertain people. It can also be about keeping them on their toes, unpredictability, surprises, perception shifts, being fun, silly, and helping them laugh. Because we all know laughter is the best medicine. It's a great way to raise your vibration and frequency. And he hadn't tricked us out of malice. It was to help us all loosen up and see everything doesn't have to be so uptight and professional, and be an outcome that is something that you predicted, because we were thinking it was going to be some wild, trick. It was something that was very simplistic, but all made us laugh. The magician said, now we want to give our final adieus to our audience. And you and me and the magician all walked in front of that table and held each other's hands like they do at the end of theater shows and plays, and we took a bow, and all of the audience got up on their feet and started clapping for us. Then we vanished, all three of us, and we ended up in a room, and you asked, where are we? The magician said, my home of wonders. We were in this specific room, but it was in their entire home, and it was filled with treasures from all over the world. Tapestries, beautiful colors, statues, pieces of art, pottery, and lots of decorations. It was rich with life. You asked the magician, why did we come here? And they said, why do you think that we did? Because that's how our guides and higher self like to speak to us in riddles and us figuring out the answers. And they said, why do you think so? And you looked around the room and said, this is what I want my life to feel like. Internally. Externally is great, but I want to feel full of life within. And the magician posed a question, what do you need to do to feel this way more often? You looked at them and said, experience more of life. Learn new things, new data, new input, new wisdom and knowledge. Be more active. Try new hobbies, step outside of my comfort zone, build or join a community, getting out of hermit mode and isolation. Plan more trips. Even if that is not a necessarily financial possibility for you in this moment, that doesn't have anything to do with future you. You have a drive and a calling to go places for a specific reason. There's nothing preventing you from planning a trip. You do not have to book everything with your bank accounts and credit cards, but pre-prep. I know this is going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. So I'm going to prepare and say, these are all the places that I'm going to go, and create an itinerary. What hotel am I going to be staying at, or Airbnb? What does the plane ride look like over there? Those are all things that we can get energetically prepared, and we're telling the universe, this is going to happen. We can research about different cultures. If travel is something that you really want to get into, start getting your energetics ready to receive that out into the world. Or you can learn about ancient cultures as well. Expand my awareness, knowledge, and wisdom. Become a collector of life, much like the magician had done in their home of wonders, but internally. I mean, you can do that externally too, but internally. Feel the fullness of every moment, birth new things into creation, share my magic with the world, shout from the rooftops, I am here. This is when the magician wanted to offer you this really beautiful analogy that for a large portion of your life, you felt like a small fish in a big pond. There were so many people that were way further ahead than where you were at, and we felt like we were getting swallowed up. Then you went on this very deep self-awareness journey, pouring love into self, figuring out what your unique talents, gifts, and abilities are, and now you are a big fish in a small pond. You have outgrown your environment, whether that's finances, career, relationships, all the different areas of your life. You are ready to have a massive upgrade. Now what has happened is we need to switch into being a small fish again in a big pond. This is finding new mentors, people to look up to that are in the places and spaces that we want to be in, having the life and the experiences that are calling to us. And that is going to pull us forward into those timelines. You have hit a certain capacity in your consciousness and your awareness, and now it's time to grow into the next version of self. One of the ways that we can do that is turning to face the audience, the proverbial audience, with our gifts, talents, and abilities, and say, I am ready. I do want to increase my finances. And one of the ways that I can do that is sharing my magic with the world. There are so many people out there that are ready to receive it. They desire to receive it. They are already there. The community has been built. Maybe it's not something that you, quote unquote, built in the 3D realms. Your higher self is taking care of it, though. They're saying, I got all these people collected together. They are ready. And getting out of the subconscious mindset grooves that we have been in, just doing the same things over and over and over again, that's keeping you a big fish in a small pond. We need to do new things, try new things, plan the trips, take a new class, just like you're doing here. This is a prime example of how to create forward movement. This is a very unique way of connecting with archetypes and money. And so there was something within your soul that said, ooh, I need something fresh. I need something fun. And so we need to do that in all areas of life. Where can I mix it up? This is when we thanked the magician for their beautiful messages and medicine and insights. And we want to take what we learned today and couple that with the pictures of magicians, the music, the personality traits, the description, the legendary magician. So we have a deeper understanding of how to embody their energetics and how to call upon them, because now we know what their viewpoints and perspectives and how they interact with reality and you and other persons. It's going to be an easier process utilizing the magic that they have to offer us. I will see you in the next section where we are going to be connecting to the archetype of the wizard.